Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this town hall meeting. We're going to talk with the two candidates for the mayor of Cincinnati before you head to the polls. And this is going to be different than maybe some of the debates you've seen before. It's going to be a conversation with John Cranley and Yvette Simpson. Not about just the issues, but about who they are as people and where they see Cincinnati in the past, today, and moving forward. It's brought to you by Fox 19 Now and the Cincinnati Enquirer. So we have Mayor John Cranley here with us. Mayor, thank you very much for joining us.
Good to be here.
We have Councilwoman Yvette Simpson joining us as well.
Glad to be here.
And helping to lead the discussion is Jason Williams of the Enquirer and Sherry Coolidge of the Enquirer as well. The first question is going to come from Sherry, but before we get to the first question, why do you think this is going to be a different conversation than we've seen on TV?
You know, we certainly think that issues are important, but we've heard a lot about them, and there's been several debates in this election season. And while these are important issues, we wanted to give everyone a chance to kind of get to know the candidates a little bit and see their personalities,
Sure.
which doesn't come through all the time at a podium when you're talking to a microphone and you're talking about very serious things. So we might veer that way, but.
And especially when there are rules. You got 90 seconds to respond, you got 30 seconds to respond. You don't really get to know the people any better, right? Sherry, first question.
So we were talking about, so we do want to definitely start out a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
Like the kind of things we do ourselves in Cincinnati. We all live here. You both grew up here. We love this city. I know we all have that in common. And so, like, what do you do for fun now when in other years, not this year probably?
Yes. So what do you do when you're going to have fun in the city of Cincinnati? And let's pretend like you weren't in the public eye. What would you do?
So with the 3 hours I've got left at the end of a campaign day, no
Yeah.
kidding. I'm a self-professed foodie. I love food, and so we have amazing restaurants. I probably patronized every restaurant in our city, in our region probably. I go in northern Kentucky and sometimes, try different restaurants, and of course north of the city as well. Most people know by now that I love music. I love to sing and I love to dance, and it's therapeutic for me and it's fun and I let loose. And I have a favorite karaoke song, which if we get really comfortable, I'll talk about. If not,
What is
I'll
that
just
favorite
hold it back.
karaoke
Yeah, we
song?
need to know.
What do you
All right.
sing?
So everybody has that one song, and mine is "Killing Me Softly."
Oh, Roberta Flack.
Roberta
All
Flack.
right, we'll call out on that at the
We
very
may
end.
do
So
that, and there
prepare
will be a
yourself.
quiz. And when I have more time, I'm a golfer. So I learned to play golf when I first started practicing law. It's amazingly like a stress reliever for me. I probably haven't touched a golf club in 6 years, but I'm looking forward to hopefully someday getting back out there because it's great to kind of be out there in the open air and play a good round. So
That's a wonderful singer, by the way.
yes.
And I saw a video of her when you were at
Oh, you're
Wendell
talking about
Young's,
me. I thought you were talking about
Wendell
Roberta
Young's
Flack.
Christmas party, and someone
yes.
did a Facebook Live, and it was awesome.
Oh, Facebook Live.
Today, that's where we are right now.
Yeah, Mayor, same
So,
question.
so we hopefully get you
So in terms of karaoke, my YouTube of doing Beast of Burden has made it around quite a bit, which I only do if a charity raises a significant amount of money to embarrass myself
Sure.
like that. Which, I like to think that people are laughing with me.
Right.
But more likely they're laughing at me. Usually you can hear lots of laughter if you see that YouTube, which is still circulating out there in the ether.
But you were having fun.
Yeah, we're
There's
having
something to
fun.
that.
It's fun. It's fun. But we hike. We love music. The one, I think, the only real vacation we've taken since the primary was one day to go up to see U2 in Cleveland. Huge music U2 fan. So Dina and I went up, and then we did on the way home. We did a couple hours at the One National Park in Ohio. We do a lot of trail hikes, California Nature Preserve. Just last week, I took a day off and to meditate and pray, and did a hike in Mount Airy Forest. But we're also foodies. We love the restaurant. Zula is a big one we go to a lot in Over the Rhine. And there's many, many others. Of course, I go to the Incline Public House quite a bit. I love that place. Helped build it, of course. But walking, hiking, I do like tennis a lot. I have not been able to play this year because I've been so busy, but I hope to take it back up after the election.
Let's talk about this. I mean, you guys mentioned all the different neighborhoods here in Cincinnati, right? It seems like overwhelmingly, when you talk about neighborhoods that have changed, everybody talks about Over the Rhine, right?
Right.
Which is fantastic. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that Over the Rhine was designated one of the most endangered neighborhoods in the country. and that's turned around. When Daniel Wright said he was a bartender at Twist, and he said, I want to build a gastropub, and I had no idea what that was, in Over the Rhine. He told me the location. I said, you're out of your mind, right? And it's changed. How do you reassure the people who live in other neighborhoods like Westwood, Price Hill, Oakley, Hyde Park, Evanston, Avondale, that they will also not be ignored in terms of revitalization? Start with you, Mayor.
Well, first of all, I know that because I've done it personally. You know, when I left City Council, I went back to the neighborhood I grew up with in Price Hill, and felt that the Incline District of Price Hill could do a revitalization similar to what Matt Adams did 50 years ago, and other neighborhoods that are seeing a comeback. And so it was hard work during the Great Recession. We got a lot of turndowns from banks, but ultimately we built the Incline Public House and then helped the planning process that led to the Incline Theater, and we're seeing new life there. And I can tell you, when I was trying to get a bank loan during the Great Recession, banks weren't lending to good projects and neighborhoods everyone believed in. No one believed in Price Hill, and nobody was lending money. And so it took determination to really keep pushing that forward. But it worked. And
Someone told me when I was writing the
Yeah.
profile of you, you went to 28 banks.
at least 28 banks. And people just a lot of times people just laugh at me on the phone. Anyway, the good news is that I talked to restaurateurs who said that it would be lucky if a restaurant like that could do $600,000-$700,000 a year in revenue. They did $3 million a year for 3 years. Now we were just a landlord; we didn't make that kind of money. They paid rent to us, and the restaurant deserves a credit. But my point is that I've done it in the private sector, working, and that's why I have a good working relationship with the Development Corporation leadership in College Hill and Westwood and Madisonville and Walnut Hills and Evanston. In each of these neighborhoods are seeing sparks of life, and we make it a priority.
Like when Dan Wright said to me he wanted to build his restaurant at Senate, where it was, when I heard that you wanted to revitalize Price Hill, I was like going, it's not going to work. But it has worked.
It has worked.
Councilwoman Simpson, same question.
I think Over the Rhine has its good and its bad, right? So the good thing about it is neighborhoods are now saying, what about me, right? And we want them to do that.
Sure.
I think the interesting thing about it is, when you decide that you're going to revitalize a neighborhood, if you take on the toughest neighborhood and you can improve the toughest neighborhood, then people should believe that we can help the others. I mean, I think it's like what do they say? If you go on the playground, you get the bully first. If you can beat up the bully, then everybody knows not to mess with you. And I think taking on Over the Rhine was a really big deal for us. Sure. And it's given neighborhoods both a hope and a desire that they're next. And in my first term, we started the Focus 52 program, which was our way of saying we're going to set aside money so that all 52 neighborhoods will have some investment. Now, that program has since been canceled, and we're talking about, if I were to win mayor, or when I win mayor, I'll say, that we're going to bring that back, that we're going to have a ready, set, go plan that says every neighborhood will be put on a plan to have the type of investment that they need. And so what we know is that Over the Rhine suits a certain purpose, but not everybody wants to live in Over the Rhine. Not everybody wants to have a business there, and we have to make sure that our other neighbors have that. So I'm proud of the work that we got to do in Walnut Hills and places like Madisonville. That work is coming along. Westwood was one of our early neighborhoods, as well as College Hill.
All right, Jason, question.
My question, shifting gears completely, is social media. How has it changed the way you approach? Let me go back. Since you first got into politics, how has social media changed the way you approach your job?
And I think people are super interested in your answer to this question.
No pressure, Rob. So I'll take it.
Yeah.
There's a good and bad to that, right? I think it's a great way to kind of communicate what we're doing. We use it to let people know kind of where we are. The challenge is people will send you an inbox and think that's an official email to respond to. So I get fix my pothole on Facebook. And the challenge is there's just no way for us to be able to manage that level of work. We want to have an accountability. So we traditionally say, hey, send us an email at City Hall so we make sure that we can handle that. Now, the good thing is people feel comfortable doing that.
Right.
And those might be people who might not know our email address at City Hall. They might not ever set foot in City Hall, but they feel like they can access us. The negative side is that people feel like they can say whatever they want to say. And I'm sure me and John have both been the subject of a lot of negativity and attacks on social media. And if you're not a strong person, which you have to be to do this job, it can really beat you down. So I think there's drawbacks and there's advantages. I think overall it's a positive thing, particularly as someone who wants to have an active conversation with people in our city and want to hear from them actively. I got to tell you, I miss the days when I could just, hey, having a good meal today, and that was my only post.
Right.
And now people are saying, what is your position on such and such? Like, I can't do that in 140 characters. It's just tough to do.
Mayor?
Well, the first time I ran, there was no social. I mean, there was no Facebook. There was no any of this until only when I came back as mayor, really, that it took off. And we wouldn't even think. 4 years ago, I'm not sure we advertised at all on Facebook or digital. Now it's a significant part of our campaign. I think, as Councilmember Simpson says, there's good and bad. I think it's good in that you can have broader conversations and reach a different people, but it's certainly there's a level of nastiness out there, and as we saw in the presidential campaign, where you could have Russian influence and other things like that, where the anonymity, the ability to be mean and polarizing, I think is destructive, and that's not just for our campaign; it's for the whole country, and so. I think somehow we have to, right now, it does seem to reward polarization, and there's sort of I would call sort of a social bullying effect where someone takes a stand, and if you're not 100% pure with that position, then somehow you're really sort of outcast.
There's no overlap.
Right. And so somehow we've got to figure out, I think, as a country, to bring it back to sort of that moderate reasonableness, civility. And, I don't have the magic wand to figure that out, but I certainly think that it's a contributing factor to people not being happy with the state of our politics.
Here's a question for you, right? The five of us sit on this couch, and I can assure you that every single one of us care about this city, right? We do immensely, right? When the Bengals lose like they did on Sunday, our Monday is going to be terrible, right?
I don't want to talk about that.
Right.
My question for you is, how do you get the message across that we can all win? How do you, because I always feel like people say, well, if that person wins, then I'm going to lose, right? If I lose, then that person's going to win. How do you get the message across that we are all in this together and we can all win and high tide lifts all boats? How do you get that message across?
It's a constant challenge, but I think part of it for me is sort of in my DNA. I was raised by a Republican father and Democratic mom, and my dad's a Vietnam veteran, my mom's the daughter of a Marine, and so I think I was raised in an environment where you appreciated both sides and had honest disagreements. And I've been proud of the fact that I've worked in a bipartisan way in appointment of committee chairs and trying to work towards the center as a general matter on things that are not ideological. And so I just try to be the example I'd like to see in Columbus and D.C. that is increasingly rare. And I hope that sort of polarization doesn't infect local government, the last bastion of non-extreme ideological polarization.
Yvette, same question.
I think we've just got to give everybody a chance to be heard. I mean, I think that feeling of lack comes from, what about me? What about my perspective? I spent a lot of time in communities, and people were saying the city doesn't care about me. What about me? And so I think we've got to give people an opportunity to all be heard, and that means we may have to get out of our comfort zone and go to places we wouldn't normally go. We've got to make room. I mean, one of the things we're talking about when I'm mayor is to spend 50% of our time outside of City Hall, because most people aren't going to come down to City Hall, go through a metal detector, come through a secure door to come see the mayor. I mean, it's difficult. And so we need to meet people where they are. We have our campaign office in the middle of Walnut Hills, right? Everything from restaurants on every corner to, people have overdosed in front of our office. People walk in from the alms, people walk in from the housing projects. Can you help me? We do, right there. And so I think part of it is just people feeling like, guess what? You answer and you respond to me, and understanding what people are going through. I think we can do a better job intentionally, particularly on issues of racism and classism, sexism, and bringing people together intentionally to have conversations in a safe place and being that example for our community, too.
What's the most shocking thing? I don't know if you've been to all 52 when you've been on the campaign trail, But what is the most shocking thing you saw? Because I ran the Hudie 14K, which took me through neighborhoods I don't typically go to. I saw a lot of litter. I saw human trafficking. It was very early in the morning, and there was some residuals of that.
Sure.
And that's just not the Cincinnati I see all the time where I'm going to events and things like that. What's the most shocking things that you both have seen out there that have surprised you and you want to do something about?
Well, I've seen a lot of it. We, in our human trafficking work, our anti-human trafficking work, we go into bushes, mattresses, underwear, just nasty, just conditions. We go to parts of our town. You can cross one step outside of the core of Over the Rhine. You go 2 blocks outside of past 14th or 15th Street. It just looks like a different place. And that's kind of the challenge that we have in this us versus them. What about me?
Right.
We have to be able to guarantee that no matter where you live, at least your neighborhood is safe and clean and cared for. And that's what people want. They don't expect that every neighborhood is going to be Hyde Park or going to be Mount Lookout or going to be whatever. But they expect that it's going to be clean and safe. And I think we have to work on making sure that that happens. And you're right. I mean, when I first ran in 2001 and I was going to every single neighborhood, I was shocked too. And I said in a speech that I gave, I said, when I step out of my car, sometimes I feel like this is great. This is wonderful. I love what's happening here. And sometimes I step out and I say, what happened here?
Right.
And we shouldn't have that type of city. We really have to make sure that we're balancing, our investment, our interest to make sure that we're lifting up those places that need us most.
Mayor?
There's so many, but for 6 months, last 6 months, I've done extensive door knocking throughout the city, and what sticks with me. There's many stories, but one that sticks with me is it was in. I won't say what neighborhood it was in, but I was door knocking, and a woman came to the door, and I said, "Hey, I'm John Cranley. Out here canvassing. Asking for your vote, kind of thing." And I said, "What issue matters to you the most?" And she just started bawling. And her daughter had died of a heroin overdose about 18 months earlier. And so she just, lost it. And so I ended up sitting with her for about a half hour. But, just the human tragedy of it, the sadness, and like so much of the country, her daughter was a good student and ended up with painkillers after a sports injury and got addicted. And 80% of people who end up on heroin started with a prescription from their doctor. And if you take OxyContin 30 days in a row, you have a 1 in 3 chance of being addicted a year later. Right. That's just Russian roulette odds.
Do you think, so I definitely, having covered City Hall for 4 years,
Yeah.
I think we've gone from not really talking about heroin. There's a lot of emphasis on it now, both from council and the mayor's office. I mean, we definitely hear about it. Did the city do enough early enough to try and address this problem?
Well, obviously the problem is incredibly deep and bigger than the city. It's a nationwide crisis. And, we've been adding enormous amount of resources to addiction service beds and to our Narcan and to our first responders. And as I've said, I think we need a tough love approach. I think we've got to save people from an OD, but I also think we need to require addiction services. But at a bigger picture level, I think we have to go to the root cause. And 80%, I keep saying this, but I think it's so powerful. 80% of people who end up on heroin aren't starting with marijuana, they're starting with prescription drugs from their doctor. And so we have to change the systems that lead to the overprescription of opiates, which is why our lawsuit against companies who have already pled guilty to purposely and knowingly marketing drugs that need to be addictive is so important. Not because it's just about money getting reimbursed, which I do want us to get reimbursed for all the money we've spent, but hopefully, more importantly, is to get an agreement from the industry to reduce the amount of prescriptions of opiates. When they're medical marijuana, there are non-opiate alternatives to manage pain that don't lead to the negative consequences of heroin.
Councilwoman?
So I think that, my disappointment with kind of the way that we handled it, and in my mind, so I didn't start in politics. I started in the private sector and then came into politics in 2011. And I had this metaphor about government You know, in the private sector, you touch the cup. If your objective is to touch the cup, you touch the cup. If you're in the government, you run around the cup, you look under the cup, you look through the cup. 5 years later, you finally say, oh, touch the cup. And I feel like in the heroin epidemic, I wish we could have had a way, like American Red Cross or other places do, to just stand up an operation. Because we're more than a year outside of this epidemic, and the numbers are going up.
Right.
We still don't have enough treatment. We don't have triage for treatment right now. And so when this first happened, I did a motion asking the administration to treat this as a public health issue and to do the wraparound. And I had some suggestions. I said, let's take a look at what some other cities are doing. But we had like 6 or 7 points. And the big thing is making sure we stand up treatment, because the Narcan is going to have to continue to be administered until we get these individuals off the street. I think John and I agree about, I call it the 72-hour hold, you know, after someone's been revived, getting them off the street and into some sort of treatment so that they can't harm themselves or others. But at the end of the day, when emergencies like this happen, I want our city to be in a place where we say, okay, this is an epidemic, this is an emergency, let's, you know, stand up some resources right now to respond to the critical emergency in front of us. And a year later, we still aren't there. And it may be unrealistic, maybe that's just bureaucracy, but unfortunately, we should be able to do that when crises like this hit.
And the heroin epidemic is different because there's not anyone who's not touched by it.
That's right.
I mean, it is far-reaching, right? And just to show you how much people are talking about it, Mac from our Facebook page talked about the heroin epidemic. We just addressed it. But if you want to get in on the conversation, make sure you go on Fox IT Now's Facebook page, our mobile app, also the Inquirers as well, so you can kind of weigh in. Jason.
Well, actually, we have some questions.
Okay, yeah, let's go
from people watching, and a couple of them are asking about the library's north building. You know, as we've gone through the campaign and things, this has almost been like, you know, something that's been going on separately at the county level, but it is right downtown. And so where do you both stand on the idea that the library is closing its north building? It's almost like it's an iconic structure downtown, and people are very polarized over this. What do you think?
I'm still learning a whole lot more about it. I haven't had the chance to talk to Kim yet about it. I'm concerned because of that, right? A lot of people in our community do use the library, and especially a lot of our kids after school and other individuals for resources. And I think it's a public space, and we should keep it that way. I'm really troubled. I haven't, kind of gotten, because it's not our purview, we haven't gotten briefed on it. We haven't been told what the plans are for the building, whether the motivation was financial, what the motivation was at all for doing this. So I think at the end of the day, the library isn't accountable to us, but it's important for maybe us to have a conversation where we say to the board, kind of, what was the motivation? Do you understand kind of the value of this place, and is there another way?
Mayor?
I generally agree. As you guys wrote about, my mother's a candidate for being appointed and was a professional librarian for many years, and I think my position is the same as hers, which she wants to study it more. But I think the burden has got to be in favor of keeping the public building a public building. One of the differences between Councilmember Simpson and I was that I was adamantly opposed to privatizing our parking garages and our parking meters.
Sure.
I generally believe that it's not a good idea to privatize or outsource public assets. I don't think that's generally a good way to balance budgets, and so I'm not ruling it out, and I'm not on the neither of us will make this decision. It's a county appointed board, but I think the burden should be on that. The default position should be to keep a public building public.
Here's a question for you. In recent history, Cincinnati was scared and excited, right? Happened within a week. We were scared when it may look like P&G was going to pull all their jobs from downtown Cincinnati, high-paying jobs, right? That did not happen. And we were excited when we heard that we were going to put in a proposition to land Amazon and tens of thousands of jobs, right? How are you both going to position Cincinnati to attract big businesses and keep them here? It wasn't that long ago we lost Chiquita, right? What is your plan moving forward? Mayor?
Great question. First of all, given my experience as a small business person who got something happening in Price Hill, to my background as a lawyer at KMK working with folks who do investments in the city, I believe I'm best positioned to continue the renaissance of the city and to have successful job growth policies that we've seen tremendous growth over the last 4 years, from GE, which I helped negotiate, to Mercy Health in Bond Hill, which I helped negotiate, to, of course, the Children's Hospital expansion. And our approach of being collaborative and cooperative rather than hostile, as Councilmember Simpson was with children's, I think is a stark difference in our approach that I think would be incredibly powerful to an Amazon.com on a going forward basis. At the same time, when the chips are down, I think people want me with my experience to be there. So I wrote an op-ed, to vote blue, that was published in the Cincinnati Enquirer. After I was elected mayor, the next day, one of my first calls was to Procter & Gamble, under the awesome responsibility of being a mayor of a great American city and understanding the importance of Procter & Gamble's history in the city. And I said to them, I don't know that we could ever do anything for you, but if you ever need my help, let me know. I didn't think, it was kind of a throwaway line. I didn't think they would actually call me and ask me for my help, but they did. And we barely won that vote, and Nelson Peltz is going to come back again next year with another proxy fight.
Sure.
And so I think the stakes continue to be very high, and we have to, of course, protect ourselves by trying to always diversify our economy, which is why we're reaching for the stars of Amazon.com. But it's also the case we got to work with those who have been with us for a long time, and so our community has got to stay focused. I mean, this guy literally said he wanted to take 10,000 P&G employees down to 1,000 in Cincinnati. That would be devastating.
All of my neighbors work there.
Well, and not only is it devastating because those jobs are gone, it's also devastating because to your tax base, these are high-paying jobs.
Well, and not to mention the spin-off and the philanthropy and the arts and everything that they do for our economy. Yeah. And so, just because things have always been going good doesn't mean, and they have for the last 4 years, doesn't mean they'll continue to go good. Yeah. Which is why I think you got to work with a children's hospital and bring them in. You got to reach for new jobs because you never know what industries might be phased out over time. And you gotta play defense and help P&G.
Okay, I'm going to let the councilwoman respond. Number one, to the question. Number two, to Children's Hospital, is there anything that you feel like it has been misrepresented in terms of your position with that?
So I want to start with the big picture.
Yeah.
Because first, this P&G thing isn't in a first for us. I mean, Macy's at one point we were really worried was going to leave. And I remember kind of the fear around that. We know that Kroger is in a battle right now. We just heard that GE may not be able to hire as many people as they originally thought either. I mean, this is the challenge of kind of being in an environment where we have a lot of corporate headquarters, and sometimes those changes can impact, our job growth. And at the end of the day, 70% of our revenue comes from earnings tax. So any one of this movement is kind of challenging. And I think the big thing for us as a city when we're talking about Amazon is to make sure we're building out a city that they would want to come to. That means making sure that we're encouraging bold vision and transit, not shying away from rail in our region, not shying away from multimodal, redeveloping sites. I mean, John took $20-some million over 4 years away from the redevelopment authority that would have done Queensgate and the Midpoint site in Bond Hill, and those projects have stood still for 4 years because that money was taken away. Those are sites that could have been a part of our application for Amazon, giving us more options, and redeveloping a brownfield site that's really close to downtown and is really a bridge between downtown and the base of the West Side. So we've got to make sure that we don't just think about incentives. Incentives are important, but building a city of the future. Nashville is welcoming 75 new people to their city every day. And they've been aggressive about having a city for the future. And we continue to stall and put out, and we're afraid, I think, of making big investments, and we're fighting over things that are already here. The streetcar was here. We thought about it for a whole year, rather than saying, how do we build out from here and make, I think, a better region.
But you're on council now. Mm-hmm. You've been there for 6 years. Uh-huh. When people ask me, like, when we're out and about what I think, I don't tend to share my actual opinion about things.
Sure.
Yeah. But I do think, like, where is the next big idea? I mean, is that on council to come up with the big idea, or is that like the mayor's job? Like, how do we kind of see this role as the mayor? Who's supposed to come up with the next streetcar, the next 3CDC, the next banks? Who's in charge of that?
Well, the reality is the mayor is the person who sets the vision for the city. I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be. But you have to have someone who has a big vision. And for me, I got into council at a time when the city was, we're in that recession. Things were starting to get stalled. It was a challenging time on council. You might remember there were people fighting. Things weren't moving forward.
I remember.
And I said, this is our time. If we don't move forward, we're going to be in trouble. And we took some risks, right? I mean, the reality is we were in a recession. We invested in the banks. We invested in Smale. We invested in Washington Park. We invested in Dunnhumby. These were all big risks to take in the middle of a recession. I mean, there were cities that weren't even paving roads at that time, and we were building new structures because we knew that when the economy picked up, that we were going to get paid big. And that's what's happened.
So you both mentioned big vision.
Yes.
What's your big vision for the city of Cincinnati?
So the redevelopment of the Queensgate corridor is an amazing vision into a green tech advanced manufacturing campus with residential built in.
All right.
And I've got more.
Go ahead.
And the Mill Creek area connects 14 neighborhoods, and it could be redeveloped again as a great industrial, commercial, and residential footprint. When you go to really cool, fun cities, they're mixing it up. You know, you might have a cool, funky arts building with a manufacturing site and a cool residential and restaurant right next to it. We don't have to be so blocked and forced. I mean, I think it's important to start integrating those places. Millennials love that, and the ability to be able to walk to work is something that people want.
Mayor, big vision.
I think the big opportunity is to reduce poverty and expand opportunity. That as we're seeing this tremendous renaissance, which we know my policies will work and hers won't, to continue bringing jobs into the city, we want to make sure that the bottom comes up. And so our Child Poverty Collaborative to help 5,000 families transition out of poverty over the next 5 years, I think would add to our moral character as a city and would be so. Unfortunately, for too long, we've had a reputation for having high rankings in child poverty. We can be a leader in poverty reduction. And I think, to me, it's always about faith in people and our people in our city. And so, to me, it's not about a new streetcar. It's about helping our people pursue their dreams and to take care of their families. That's what motivates me, is helping individuals, not thinking about one shiny object. I will say that we've had this conversation about vision over the last couple of minutes, and Councilmember Simpson said I took $20 million away from Queensgate. I do want to point out that she has defined her approach to Children's Hospital as visionary, and I think it's the opposite of visionary, and that's for the voters to decide which vision they prefer. But that's a very different approach. And Chris Wederick said, that editorialized from the Business Courier, defending Councilmember Simpson's approach to Children's Hospital, and said that's what cities like Chicago do, is hold businesses up for additional funds for certain projects. I think that's the wrong way to go. It's a fair argument. It's a reasonable point. I just don't agree with it. I think that will hurt our renaissance on a going forward basis. And I think that's really the choice of the kind of vision we're going to take. But the big thing, we keep asking, what's the next big thing? I think it's our people. I think it's helping people get out of poverty, transition into the middle class.
All right, I'd be remiss if I didn't let you respond.
I agree, but I do not want the whole conversation.
Yeah, totally.
This
This is the last word on this.
We will end it right here.
Okay.
Children's keeps coming up because it's political, because it's the one thing that John has. It's all he has. And if we want to talk about, and I run a positive campaign. We've got negative ads with babies on them saying, I don't love babies. No one's made a bigger commitment to children than me. And we have a great relationship with Children's. We've worked with them. But this is politics, right? This is win an election at all costs, focus on something that is not as big an issue as it could be. You know what a big issue is? Putting $100 million slush fund as a permanent charter change in our city. I mean, we could talk about the park levy. We could talk about the fact that if that had gone through, your taxes would have gone up and the mayor would have had a $100 million slush fund for his donors. That hurts regular, everyday people, $100 million. And so what our campaign is focused on is, what is the vision for the future? Not taking one issue, or let's talk about the day when he wanted to ban Syrian refugees. 3 days later, he said maybe not. Now he's doing sanctuary cities. So there's a lot of blame and finger pointing to go around.
Agreed.
I think the focus should be on what's positive, where we're going. And the reality is let me just finish this. I've been a supporter of Children's. The deal was going to go forward. I voted yes to get it on the council calendar so it would go forward. And there are great examples of other cities that are partnering with hospitals to do revolutionary projects.
And let me.
And since she's mentioning a $100 million slush, I think I have to have the right to defend
You
myself.
have 30 seconds to respond to that.
Then I got a fun question. Now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Only because we do want people to know more about you, but I would be remiss if I didn't let you respond.
What I haven't heard is an apology for being wrong about Children's. Children's Hospital and a $500 million investment. It's all about her, and that she's worried it's going to hurt her politically. It's going to hurt the people in Avondale who aren't going to get that investment if she had succeeded in stopping it. The fact that she says, well, it was going to go through anyway, is that the way to be mayor? Did she not mean it? Four people on council voted to condition a zoning change on $27 million. If she's mayor, she can control the agenda of what gets voted on at all. It's not political. It's about the kids who would benefit from children's services. It's about Avondale, which will get the jobs. It's about a $500 million investment in the city. And by the way, she described it as visionary.
Yeah.
These are a real issue, and if people want. I think people should deserve and make their decision based on issues, not on personal issues. Several people think it was a good thing to do.
Mayor, we're going to put the gavel down on that. The one thing we can all agree on is that Children's Hospital is like one of the best in the country and should be supported in most ways, right?
Yes.
Period.
It is supported.
Jason said he had a fun question.
Please.
Glad we're getting away from children.
I love this.
Even talk about
It's
children
fun,
today, but,
right?
Yes, I'll start with Yvette. You both have now been in enough elections where you've, as politicians and elected officials. Do you have a specific ritual that you do on election day outside of regularly going out and campaigning? Do you go to somewhere every time to eat, or is there something fun that you always do on election
I shake
day?
salt over my shoulder and I spin around 3 times and I jump up and down to start the day because you always want to make sure. No, I'm kidding. That's not true at all.
So what do you do? What do you do on election day?
It's go time for me. So I wake up really early in the morning. We have a very tight plan. I get to as many polling locations as I can. I start out at 6:30 in the morning out the door. I'm literally at a location when the polls close. Literally, I'm there, 7:30 when the polls close, talking to voters. In the middle of the day, I have to stop at Graders. And I think we've got I guess it was a plug for Graders. I have to stop by Graders to get my ice cream, my double chocolate chip for sure. And then we usually do lunch at Price Hill Chili. I think that's kind of where both Republicans and Democrats have a big lunch there. And I think the Republicans sit over here and the Democrats sit over here. And then we mingle and we hug and then we go back to our corners. So that's usually the ritual. And I love Election Day. It is, you get to be out there with the voters. They come out, they hug you. It's just a great day.
I'm with you on that. Like, I love Election Day. I love voting. I love to, last year was the first year I voted early, right? Because I could look out of my place and see the lines forming at the Board of Elections. I just wanted to be a part of that. Mayor, what do you do on Election Day?
I like you. I like the ritual of Election Day.
Yeah.
And so I never vote early just because I like the idea of going in on Election Day. And although people can certainly vote early, and they should, but I like still doing it on the day itself. And so, usually my wife and son and I go in together. It's kind of fun to have, Joseph's old enough now to sort of understand what's going on, to go through that ritual there. And then I think, like Councilmember Simpson, I usually end up lunch at Price Hill Chili and go and shake hands and try to get as many last-minute votes as
Everybody's going to show up at Price Hill Chili on Election Day.
Do you eat a certain thing there while you're
Chili.
Well, I mean, three-way, four-way.
I like the Big Sam.
What is your relationship like now? I mean, obviously, we're in a very heated campaign this time. But what would you say your relationship is like now? Would you hug each other at Price Hill Chili on Election Day?
Do you talk to each other on a daily basis? What is your relationship like? That's a great question.
Well, I think everyone knows I've been asking to meet with her on a weekly basis for 4 years, and unfortunately, she hasn't been willing to do so. I've worked, that's why Denise Driehaus, Todd Portune, that's why I have such broad support from everyone I've worked with over the years. And I think I wish we could have worked more together, and the offer is still open.
Is that a true statement, and why?
So it's not 100% true. The reality is when we have to meet, we have very different manners, and I do not accept high tempers. I don't like when people get heated, when they yell. I don't accept that. I don't sit in meetings where that happens. And so I drew the line when we had a very heated meeting in his office, and I said enough. And so for me, I feel like it's important as a leader.
What meeting was that?
I will finish what I'm saying. So I think it's important, and you know, when you have people like Marion Spencer saying she hung up on the phone with him. For me, I will meet when there is a gathering of people, when there's official business, but I just think you have to respect people. And I will not be in meetings or private meetings where I feel like that doesn't happen.
However, do you think that when you cut off communication,
It's not cut off. I mean, like
you know
I
what
said,
I mean?
when we
Like,
do
it's
get
like,
to meet,
it's like, hey man,
we
I'm not gonna talk with you if you're gonna speak to me that way, and I'm gonna go now. But I'll see you tomorrow if you have a different approach. Do you know what I mean? So
How many of those days do we go through?
I don't accept the premise. The fact is that I drove Marion Spencer to City Hall personally, just the two of us, when she got a street naming. And I think it's a cheap shot to bring that up. I don't know what meeting you're referencing, but I do know that people who do meet with me on a regular basis, like David Mann and Kevin Flynn and Denise Treehouse and Todd Portune and Christopher Smitherman and others are all supporting me. And they work with me. We don't always agree.
Sure.
If you take the position that you can't meet with someone who you don't agree with, you can't get things done. And the people's business is more important than the fact that we disagree on a few issues.
It's not disagreement.
But
I mean,
I
it's
do
not
think this is
disagreement.
important to point out, right? Like when people accuse you of being a certain way, it is important to be open to that criticism. So do you ever think that you have a temper that sometimes gets out of control? Or that's maybe one thing you need to work on.
Yvette Simpson wouldn't know that because she doesn't meet with me. Am I a perfect person? Absolutely not. Am I a passionate person? Absolutely, I'm a passionate person. I care deeply about poverty. I care about social justice. I care about growing jobs in this city. I have strongly held beliefs, but I've never openly attacked someone personally. I've never criticized people in public. On social media, I never make it personal. I keep it on the issues. Do I have strong beliefs? Of course I have strong beliefs. I'm trying to build a city that I believe will be better for the whole community and for all 52 neighborhoods. But you know what? Like you take David Mann, we had a huge disagreement about the streetcar when I was elected. He's a big supporter of mine. Yeah. It's like the way Councilmember Simpson has handled it is if she doesn't get her way, she takes her ball and goes home. I didn't get what I wanted on the streetcar, but I picked up myself the next day and went back to work. And Kevin Flynn is supporting me now, and he was the swing vote to keep the streetcar going.
I don't think
It's not about issues. Let's not go there. It's not about issues. I mean, here's what I believe. As a leader, the way you present yourself is important, and any of us can lose it. I can go to 10 any day. But I know that if I do that, that makes it more difficult for people to even want to approach me. And that means that I can't do the business that I need to do. So we got to keep our tempers in check. And the reality is no one's going to voluntarily walk into a room where they don't know what they're going to get. And what I've said time and time again is it's on him. I mean, the bully on the playground doesn't get to say, why aren't the kids playing with me? The bully has to adjust his temperament in order to do that.
She just called me a bully.
I did.
This is name
it was
calling.
an analogy.
This is name calling. Look, listen.
Uh-oh.
I've spent my whole life in this city. From the time I was at St. X High School, I've been committed to public service. I went to divinity school. I started the Innocence Project.
Right.
This campaign has consistently tried to create a caricature about me that's just not true. I have friends from high school, college, law school. Everyone who's ever worked for me at City Hall supports me. She won't meet with me on a regular basis. And if it's on me, the invitation goes out every single week to meet, and she refuses. And so I will continue to reach out and extend my hand. I just wish she would withdraw her fist.
Go ahead.
I mean, you're both Democrats. And I've been doing the research. Like, at your core beliefs, you really
are the same.
Are very similar. I mean, you guys disagree on streetcar and a handful of other things, but is it really boil down to a personality thing? Really?
No. I mean, we are very different people. I think I grew up in a very different way. I have a very different perspective. So from an issue standpoint, what we prioritize might look a little different. I mean, you can't boil down somebody's personal story to Democrat or Republican. We bring those issues, we bring that to the table. But at the end of the day, what I know is that how we approach people and how we deal with people matters. And I think at the end of the day, I say let's work together, and we do. We're at the dais, we're friendly. When we have to meet, we meet. And we have had meetings about issues, and we do. But I think the challenge is it never changes. And no one's going to willingly walk into a situation every week where that happens. Mistruths are stated, voices raised, it gets really heated, and no one's going to willingly walk
How
into
would
that.
you
And I
know?
think
if you
because
don't
I've
meet with
been
me,
there.
how would you even know?
But you said she'll.
I've been there.
I haven't seen this publicly from Yvette. You said if she doesn't get her way, she'll take her ball and go home.
I've never done that.
I don't like. What do you mean by that?
What I mean is that they've taken the position that they just won't meet to work together. I mean, I wasn't happy about the way the streetcar thing turned out, but that doesn't mean I didn't say I'm not going to work with David Mann, PG Sittenfeld, and Kevin Flynn. We work together all the time, and I reach out to her to this day. It's I reach out, she refuses. She doesn't return phone calls. She doesn't meet on a regular basis. I meet with everyone on a regular basis if they're willing to meet.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there and then let you respond, and then we're moving on.
Let's move on after this, please. So we had a very heated early meeting. I was very optimistic about.
How long ago was this meeting?
We've had a lot of meetings.
Okay.
This was the first time. It was right after the streetcar. He invited me to his office. We met. I think it was just the two of us. There might have been one of your staffers there. And standing up, pacing, moving the hair, yelling, it was bad. And I called the timeout.
That's just not true.
I called the timeout.
That's just not true.
And I said, let's talk about how we're going to work together. Otherwise, I have other things to do. He did calm down at that time, I thought, which was good. So we came back. We had other meetings. After that, we didn't meet for a while because, again, he would say things in meetings. And then when we got to the dais there was an issue with the streetcar.
We'll give you 25 more seconds.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to recall. So we ended up getting back together. All of us met together. Again, yelling, stating mistruths. What I think is important for any leader, and like I said, this isn't just me. There was a whole story in the Inquirer about this. People understand this. It's on us. If I walked into a room and I was in any way made people uncomfortable in that meeting, I would take ownership of that. I know that it's my job if I want to facilitate a positive relationship with people who I need to do business with, whether that be somebody in D.C., a civil rights icon, or my colleague, that I would conduct myself with the best professionalism to make sure that they continue to work with me.
I'll tell you what. I mean, the thing, and we're going to put a pin in that.
Let's do that.
But the thing is like I have not always acted the best way in public, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's important to own up to it, and I also think it's important to give people as many shots. Like Adam Jones, how many mistakes has he made, right? How many times of redemption does he deserve? Every time. Because that's the only way we move forward.
Not everyone feels that way, though. And that's a huge debate in this community.
I know, but the thing is like, I do feel this. Like if you don't give people a chance to redeem themselves, it's like you're saying that they're not human. Like you're saying that they don't deserve.
We got to
another
work.
shot.
We got to work with each other.
Correct.
We have strong disagreements.
I agree.
And we have to look. Bill Seitz and I couldn't be more different politically, but because I have a good working relationship with him, when I was at the Innocence Project, getting innocent people out of prison, we worked together on criminal justice reform, and he had a libertarian streak, and we got something done. We get things done because we don't put petty personal disagreements ahead of the public business, and the offer to meet on a regular basis is still open.
If the offer is to meet and to conduct ourselves and not yell at people and not tell mistruths and not say things in the meeting and then say something different outside the meeting, then I would be happy to meet. So and we can meet in the middle on that.
The thing is that's progress, right? That is a starting point.
It's always been. That's always been my condition.
I think it's a starting point is very important. It's not where we are today or tomorrow, but that at least is a starting point. And I think that's fantastic because I know you both care about the direction of the city, right?
That has always been the condition.
So let's talk about this as we lighten things up, right?
I have no idea where you're going with
What's
this.
the most surprising
I thought that was
thing?
the light question. Wasn't that supposed to be the light question?
For the both of you guys, what's probably the most surprising thing that people don't know about you, other than you sing that song?
Karaoke song.
Correct.
Killing Me Softly.
Roberta Flack.
Yes.
What's probably the thing that surprises people the most about you? But they don't know. All the people are watching.
Well,
right
I
now.
mentioned the YouTube of me doing Beast of Burden, which usually gets a few chuckles when
Yeah.
people see it.
Because I'll tell you this, for me, like probably, and I'm into
I
fitness.
know
I'm
Jason's going to need to answer too.
Well, I'll tell you, like, I'm into fitness, I'm into working out, I'm into eating healthy, right? But there's nothing more I love than a fried bologna sandwich.
Ooh, so good.
Polly has a good one.
good.
Nation.
Cincinnati.com.
Yeah.
I certainly,
Nation.
I certainly have I certainly eat French fries too often.
So yeah. So what's the one thing
got
that people
something.
that probably actually surprises you?
So I was a professional double dutcher for years.
Really?
And,
Can you still do it?
I can, not as well as I once did. I do Saturday hoops over the Rhine, and they used to only do basketball, and I came in and started working with the girls on double dutch, and I got in the rope, and I felt really good in my head. It was like I was gonna go there, and like 10 seconds later, I was winded. But I am a good coach because I can teach the other girls how to do it, and I can still do a few of the moves. But
Getting old is a terrible thing,
It
I'm
is a
telling you.
horrible thing. But there was a time I started when I was in kindergarten, and we were national champions, international champions, by the time I was a senior in high school.
Mayor?
I had a major injury that ended my career forever, unfortunately.
Mayor? Anything to add other than your obsession with French fries?
That's all I can think of right now. That and doing silly karaoke stuff.
Here's the thing, like in terms of your career path, St. X, what is their slogan? Men for others?
Yes.
What prompted you to go to divinity school at Harvard? What was that track?
Well, my joke is I knew I was going to be a lawyer, so I wanted to ask for forgiveness in advance. But no, look, I'm a spiritual person.
Yeah.
I'm a person of faith, and I feel called to public service. And that's why when people launch character attacks against me, it's so upsetting because we can disagree on issues, but I'm in this for the right reasons. I'm trying to make the city better. I call it like I see it. It's true that you can't put me in a box of right wing or left wing because I did come from a moderate, pragmatic background, but I'm proud of that fact.
Yeah.
But the divinity school was that I was blessed to go to Harvard Law School, and there's lots of opportunities coming out of Harvard Law School to make a lot of money. But I've felt since high school a real calling to public service and social justice to fix injustices, to right wrongs. And so I spent a year to sort of make sure that I would stay on that track of trying to build a better community wherever I live. And so that was really the motivation for doing that, was to keep myself centered. And my wife does a good job of keeping me centered now. On staying focused on what matters, which is not the petty personal stuff, but the common good, the public purpose of trying to build a better community for everybody.
Your faith.
It's a big part of who I am. This is my calling. I believe that. And, the challenges that I faced as a child really prepared me, I think, for this time, not just from a place of really being able to understand what most of our kids, since most of them are in poverty, face. Being virtually homeless from 16 to 18, relying on family, not always knowing where that meal was going to come from, and then being able to be the first in my family to go to college on a full scholarship to Miami and then to go to UC and get my MBA from Xavier. That helps me believe. I mean, that's my motivation to believe that really the children aren't the problem, that we really can take a child who really believes, and they all, I think, do, that they can be great and get them to the next level. So I was called to this work. I also, there's something about, I think, growing up the way that I did that really made me strong and resilient. And I'm one of the toughest people I know. And it takes toughness, I think, to do this job. You got to be prepared to, I think, be account to people, to deal with some of the arrows that will come at you for sure. But to know that my mission at the end of the day is to make people's lives better. I think it's the only reason that I came from that situation and was allowed and blessed to be here, because so many people who grew up where I did never made it. And so I consider it, a pay it forward, a responsibility. Service is the rent we pay for the air we breathe. And I'll do it for my whole life. And so I believe carrying that mantle, particularly where our city is now, is so important in bringing our city together, making sure we're representing everybody. Empathy is good. Understanding is even better. I know and I understand, and I bring that passion with me to work every day. And my number one objective, not politics, not issues, not pettiness, is to change the lives of people in our city.
Yeah, I think Cincinnati is like a child, right? I mean, it's just kind of like two things you don't realize when you're young. Number one, when people say to you when you're young, like, youth is wasted on the young, you have no idea what that means.
Exactly. That's the truth.
Is that not the truth?
Absolutely.
And the other thing is when JFK said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I think that applies right now because it should be, what can we do to make this city better? And it has nothing to do with my stock in the city, right? It's just, I just want Cincinnati to prosper.
Well, that's
period.
something you made a cornerstone of the State of the City speech.
Yeah, this has been my approach to everything, is to collaborate, to work with others, even people I don't agree with. And so, from immigration to the economic inclusion to our child poverty to our pension solution, we've been able to ask people to give back. As I like to say, the greatest power of being mayor is the soft power of asking people to give back. And so I've asked everyone to give an hour a month to the city. We'll have fun with that next year. But it's also the case that this Child Poverty Collaborative, where we have hospitals and human service and the business community all working together, raising private dollars, and Karen Bankston just took over as the executive director, is because I asked. And there are a civic-minded group of people that want to make a difference. I've often said, people have said, well, how do you get somebody like, Children's Hospital to do more for the community? My approach is to ask. Michael Fisher is the co-chair of our effort. And so asking is, I think, a better way, honey's a better way than vinegar to attract, bees and help. And so I think that collaboration, working across aisles, reaching out, is the better way to get things done. And I think that's why we've been so successful.
Can we throw the children's thing
Yeah.
out for the rest of the our
I
time?
thought we did.
No, we did.
Moving
You
on.
want to talk about FC Cincinnati? You
Well, I also
Oh, God, I want to talk about FC Cincinnati.
Okay.
Because we're cruising towards some big decisions that'll change our city.
That's right.
Correct.
So
You both, I've seen you both attend games and Facebook photos. What is your take on the stadium issue? It's not really seemed to have come up much in the campaign, but I think there's probably going to be,
big.
after the election, I think it's probably going to be a topic because their deadline's coming up here. And do you see that?
We
Like,
agree.
What will City Hall do?
We
What
agree
can it
on
do?
this one. I mean, I think FC is very exciting. I got the chance to kind of go and do the game day experience, marching from Mecklenburg, going into the stadium together, the Bailey, that whole energy. It's just amazing. It's just so kinetic and it's so energetic and it's great. And I think what we know is that the county has to do the heavy lifting, and the city will follow up with the traditional economic development incentives, whether that be TIF. Tax increment financing for those who don't know, or abatement structure. I think that one's easy. I think we agree on that, and if the county can kind of bring more resources to the table, which they have to do, then we'll support it. I think we're all just constrained by the fact that we feel like it's in a great place right now, and because the rules say you can't do that, it's a shame, because I think Nippert is a great place. You got young people right there. It's easy to access. That energy is palpable there, and I worry that any move outside of Nippert is going to result in some sort of, kind of a slight deflation in the energy that's there. But the rules are the rules, and the ownership wants to go up now, and we're going to be supportive in any way we can.
So you guys agree on that?
Yeah, I agree with
Why do you think that was such a lightning rod? Why do you think this soccer club coming to Cincinnati and attract that many people, 30,000 people during some matches? Why do you think it landed so well?
It's awesome. I've talked to folks there about that, and I guess Cincinnati was a little bit ahead of the curve with youth soccer programming and extensive.
Oh, sure.
And so we're on second generation kids now. Whereas I guess most other cities didn't, the trend towards kids playing soccer, my son plays soccer, doesn't play football.
Sure.
That's becoming more and more, prevalent. And so that Cincinnati was about a generation ahead of the rest of the country on that. That's just one theory,
Sure.
but whatever it
That
is,
makes
it's
sense.
working.
Yeah.
It's electric. I mean, it's an exciting, awesome experience.
I'm going to put you both on the spot right now.
Oh boy.
What do you think needs to be done to fix the path of the Bengals? And that's an unfair, lousy question, but I need to ask it because
Is that a serious
And-
question or is
and-
it a fun question?
I think it's a fun question,
Okay, good.
but it's serious as well because people want to know, because in terms of being here for 22 years, whether this team wins or loses, it affects me, man. It affects me.
I got to tell you, one of my friends was the coach of the Bengal cheerleaders. And actually, my current friend is the coach. And when I was a young lawyer, she invited me to try out for the Bengal cheerleading squad. And I politely disagreed because I don't think I look good in orange lipstick. But if me getting in a Bengal cheerleader uniform and being down there and cheering for the team will motivate the team, I will, as mayor, become a Bengal cheerleader to make sure our team wins. I will go there. I will dance. I will root the team on. Whatever I need to do for the team.
I would do the same
We will both be at the next game in our Bengal cheerleader outfits, ready to cheer the team on.
Mayor, same question.
I'm not going to offer advice on the Bengals. I got enough problems on that.
I agree.
You got to do what you got to do.
That was an unfair question. I will cop to that.
We'll leave that to Doc. Doc will tell us everything they need to do.
Yes,
exactly.
All Doherty, that's what I read.
Jason, any question?
I think Yvette used the word resilient to describe yourself. That's the way I would describe you too.
Thank you,
the one thing I want to ask you is, both where you both grew up at. I remember when you launched your campaign, you talked about growing up next to the Cincinnati police shooting range.
Mm-hmm.
Do you go back? Do you still have family in Lincoln Heights? Do you go back?
I do. And we've been talking actually with the head of our training about what we're going to do about that firing range, because I didn't know at the time when I was growing up that that's owned by CPD, and that's still in the middle of the day on the Saturday. If you're in Lincoln Heights, you hear those shots all day. You hear them in Woodlawn and you hear them in Evendale, and actually the mayor of Evendale approached me about wanting to either put sound barriers there. It was a challenging time. It was a great community, certainly a village, and that's why I know that village matters. We've got a strategy called It Takes a Village, Let's Wake the Village Up. But it was a real challenge getting through that. And, it's why I know when I look at our kids that they can do it. When you come through that, you can do anything. So when I left my home, which wasn't really a home at that time, I was technically homeless, a ward of the court when I started at Miami, didn't know where I was going to stay for that first break. I went just all in. And I remember going to Miami and seeing students who, they had coasted a little bit and they were chilling, and I was like, definitely focused. And it was the reason I made it through, because I knew this was my chance. And I've worked hard ever since. And I also work hard to make sure all of our kids have that same opportunity. We've got to do something about that firing range, because kids hearing gunshots all the time creates that very desensitization to violence that can create a violent person. And the idea that firing range, which our house was right by the fence, could have contributed to that is a major challenge. So I still have a great love for my community. As a member of that community, as a member of the Hamilton County Planning Partnership, we've been able to support Lincoln Heights, and I think it's an important community in our region too. But growing up that way, no one understands unless you've been there what it's like to not know that night where you're going to sleep. It's a real challenge, and unfortunately, more than 50% of our kids in our city live that life every day.
Mayor, a lot of people would assume that you growing up is the exact opposite of that when hearing that you went to St. X. Is that a misconception?
I grew up in Price Hill, and my memories are of a vibrant middle-class neighborhood. I used to walk to school. I like to joke that I used to walk uphill both ways, partly because there are a lot of hills in Price Hill.
Absolutely.
But so there are hills in both directions. But also, I used to serve mass at 6:30 in the morning, and I'd walk there in the dark, and I'd walk back home to walk my son back to school at St. William's. And I think it was Americana. It wasn't rich, it wasn't poor, it was middle class. And I think that it was just an absolute great neighborhood to grow up in, and I think the values of that I've instilled of faith, family, to whom much is given, much is expected, comes from faith and family. And my wife and I are obviously replicating those same values on a going forward basis. But look, I've been blessed in life, and I have a deep calling to devote my life to trying to make the community better. And I think over the last 4 years, objectively speaking, the city is much better off than it was.
Your parents still live in the same house you grew up in?
Yeah, they still live in the house I grew up in.
Do they really?
Oh, yeah.
That is
Yeah.
awesome to hear. I think
That is so Cincinnati, though.
Yeah,
isn't it?
That's so
That's so
Cincinnati,
Cincinnati.
right? So where do you see the city in 4 years? whichever one of you is elected mayor, where do you see Cincinnati 4 years from now? Mayor.
Our goal is more jobs and more people. You know, cities want to grow. You know, for 60 years, the city was losing population and losing jobs. Now we're growing again. Most of our other problems are solved if we continue to grow in terms of jobs and people. That's why our policies are working, and I think we should continue them. We can deliver more basic services and reduce poverty if we continue to bring in more jobs to the city and excite more investment. Similarly, the sparks that we're seeing, whether it's the Incline District or Westwood Town Hall or Madisonville, Walnut Hills, Evanston, Bond Hill, is to spread the renaissance to all the neighborhoods and to lift as many people up as possible.
I've never heard that before, but it resonated with me when you say cities want to grow.
Right.
Yvette Simpson, and this is going to be it for us.
So 2/3 of primary voters said that the last 4 years haven't been good enough. That to me is, I think, a sounding bell to the fact that even though I think we're doing good, we're doing fine, we can do better, and I think people feel that way. And I think part of that, we're focused on people and we're focused on place, and we're making sure that we have that equity, meaning that no matter where you live, you feel like your city cares about you. We've got to rebuild the places where people live. The research suggests that your life trajectory is based on the place and the environment in which you live, and we control a big part of that as a city, but also working and making sure that we're focused on people, and that means that their voices have to be the central of everything we do. So we're going to have a robust community engagement strategy where we hear from people. We're going to be out in community, and I think that type of service where people feel like the government isn't distant, but it's close in. I hug people. I'm always out in the community. People are high-fiving. We're crying with people. We're taking care of people. Having a government that's much more accessible, that works with people where they are, is a big deal. And really identifying those most mission-critical people. Our research suggests that those are single moms not working, grandparent head of households are struggling. Our young people, about 16% of our young people between 16 and 24 are not in school or working. That's critical because what are they doing all day?
Sure.
So we're going to make sure we lean into making sure that the people are cared for and the places where people live, no matter west side, east side, or central, are flourishing. And we're going to invest strategically and aggressively on that.
That does it for us. Councilwoman Yvette Simpson, Mayor John Cranley, Jason Williams, Sherry Coolidge. Hopefully you got something out of this. I know the format was different, but I think we got to know them a little bit better. So I thank you very much for being honest, even though it got heated at times.
Thank you.
Make sure you head to the polls because the only way your voice matters is if you vote. Take care until next time.